is visiting the island today. He's with Italian Prime Minister Enrico Letta. They start this press conference a little bit late as they visited the migrant center on Lampedusa.
Il Presidente della Commissione Europea Barroso e la Commissaria Cecilia Malmstrom per essere qui con noi oggi, per aver accettato immediatamente l'invito che il governo italiano ha loro rivolto di venire a rendersi conto in prima persona del dramma che si...
Prime Minister Enrico Letta thanking Jose Manuel Barroso for coming to the island to see for himself the tragedy that has happened here.
Il tempo ovviamente di incontrare, di ascoltare, il tempo di vedere. Questa mattina abbiamo deciso
We've also had the opportunity to meet with
una visita
some of the survivors.
al centro.
We had a rapid visit at the refugee center. It was a decision that was taken this morning because we thought it was impossible to come to Lampedusa without visiting the refugee center. We've also met with the local authorities. We've discussed with the mayor, the president of the region, representatives of all the local institutions. We've met with the representatives of the associations that are really committed to helping locally and dedicating to helping the migrants. We've met some migrants who were part of the tragedy, and also the other 830 refugees that are staying at the center on Lampedusa.
Ha rappresentato un complesso di messaggi che abbiamo ascoltato.
This was a visit which I think is an event where we've seen and heard many messages, and we've seen many representatives of the Italian government and the European Commission. We've seen and heard different messages, and now we can go back and really commit ourselves to taking action. We've seen for ourselves on the spot what the main priorities are. As far as the Italian government is concerned, we have today taken upon ourselves a task which has been taken by the Vice President, the Italian MPs, and we've taken a decision in Italy to really have a day of St. Francis, a day of mourning. It's a specific day of the patron St. Francis, and we've taken it as a day in memory of the tragedy, in preparation for the funerals of the victims of the tragedy. These are decisions which have been taken by the Italian government because we want to really show our support and that we share in this tragedy, this human tragedy, of dimensions we've never previously experienced in the Mediterranean. This is what we've said to those that we've met, and it's also an apology for the lack of preparation in our country when dealing with this type of tragedy. So Italy has and will continue to make all the efforts to help Lampedusa. With the mayor and the president of the region, we've decided that in the law, which will be adopted by December, a new law, it will give some guidelines as far as emergency operations following the tragedy here at Lampedusa. We will discuss this in Rome when I'll meet both parties in Rome. The second piece of information, Italy intends to really put this problem, this issue, as a priority on the European agenda. Italy will have the presidency in the second half of 2014, president of the EU, and we've agreed to jointly with the European Commission and Italian government to really address this issue. Before this tragedy, we already had contacts in Athens with the Greeks who will hold the presidency for the first half of 2014. Unfortunately, we've experienced this traumatic event, but what we want is for 2014 to really become the year of awareness in Europe, and for us to take some concrete measures to deal with this issue since the tragedy. We will discuss this with the President of the Commission, Manuel Barroso, and during the European Summit we will have an emergency debate around this topic, which wasn't on the agenda, but I believe it is now important that on the 24th and 25th of October we really dedicate a debate to this topic. Yesterday, the summit, which was held in Luxembourg, with the EU Foreign Affairs Ministers, has already adopted some guidelines which will then provide some measures at the European level. What I want to say is that we have committed ourselves to really focusing attention of the EU member states on this issue. We know that the Commission is committed to this, but we believe that it's important for all the member states to really understand how dramatic this issue is. Otherwise, the Commission will not be able to take action. And I'm happy to see that the EU Commission President is here today. This is a message for all member states. This is a European tragedy. Italy is committed to doing its utmost possible, but Europe as a whole must take its responsibility. And now I will give the floor to President Barroso. But I want to say that Italy really has, right from the beginning, adopted initiatives. And today, this afternoon, at the Council of Ministers, we'll meet, and they will also take a stand on this issue of refugees. And I can announce that we will allocate resources to the issue of minors, young people who are refugees. And we've seen today that out of the 41 minors, young people present at the refugee center, we have seen their specific problems. And we really understand the problems of these young refugees. And we believe it's really important to reorganize the refugee center because it can't continue to operate in this way. We will also continue working on the adoption of measures, important measures, in order to have a more humanitarian integration and insertion of refugees. I think it's really important to work on this because following this type of tragedy, it's important to inform public opinion that things have changed over the last years. Today we can see that in the Arab world, some of the governments have collapsed. And the political events in some of the Arab countries have provoked the exodus of populations, which today are not linked to economic reasons. It's dealing with problems of human rights. Asylum seekers are coming here for political reasons. I think it's important for European institutions and national institutions to really find answers to this new type of challenge. This is the commitment the Italian government has taken on. And now I will stop because I believe the important part of today's meeting, which was a very short visit to the refugee center, but we believed it was a very important visit. We felt it was a vital visit, even though it was very short, and it was organized by the mayor. The Commissioner will go back to Strasbourg. Mr. Barroso will go back to Brussels. I will go back to Rome. And in the afternoon, we have a Council of Ministers meeting, and we will start really working in a concrete manner on adopting measures. So I am waiting on this meeting with the mayor and the president of the region in Rome so that we can adopt the stability law for Lampedusa. But I think it's really important to stress that we have to continue fighting with the support of the European Commission on a European level so that we really draw the attention of the whole of Europe onto this big European issue. And 2014 will be a turning point. We will all have to commit ourselves to making sure that we change things. I think this is really the duty of the Italian government, but also the duty of the European Union.
Grazie. Buongiorno.
Thank you. Good morning. I'd like to thank Mr. Letta and Mr. Alfano for providing the possibility taking part in this visit. I would like to thank the mayor of Lampedusa, and I would like to thank the president of the region. After the tragedy of last week, it was important for me to come here today. Once again, I would like to really express my condolences and share in the tragedy and mourning of the families who've lost some of their loved ones. We're here today to say that Europe is behind the people of Lampedusa and supporting Italy. The problem of Italy, which is an EU member state, is that Italy has to make all the other countries understand that this is a problem that has to be shared by the whole of Europe, and that together we can really find an adequate response for this type of strategy. Europe cannot turn its head away when we can see vessels capsizing, and we've seen a great loss of lives.
We in the European Commission, myself and Commissioner Malmstrom, we believe that the European Union cannot accept that thousands of people die at its borders.
Okay, I believe we're coming out of this press conference now. EU Commission President José Manuel Barroso on the Italian island of Lampedusa, where more than 270 migrants lost their lives as they were trying to cross over from northern Africa.
Another thing is to be in loco, experiencing.
Made a visit to the refugee center on Lampedusa. More than 1,000 refugees in that center right now, although it can only hold 250, and that includes 155 survivors from the tragedy last week. More than 270 people died. EU foreign ministers and home affairs ministers met in Luxembourg yesterday, and they also discussed the Lampedusa tragedy. We've just been listening to Italian Prime Minister Enrico Letta, who said that he wanted to use Italy's presidency of the European Commission in the second half of 2014 as a chance to really highlight what's going on with migrants trying to come to the European
Centro
Union.
d'Accoglienza, the reception center.
Many making a perilous journey trying to cross the Mediterranean on ramshackle vessels. And the point of this press conference today is really to highlight this problem, to highlight the fact that more refugees are coming due to political reasons, instability in Arab countries, so not just the traditional migrants who are coming for economic reasons, and to discuss how Europe can share the burden of migrants.
I want to thank all of them in the name of the European Commission. All those that professionally or on a voluntary basis were doing everything they could to save lives and also to give a better reception to people that are suffering so much. As President Letta said, there are some things we can do at national level, others we have to do at European level. I have to tell you that the European Union is facing this problem and that the European Commission is trying to raise awareness regarding this problem. And what I can promise today is that the Commission will do all it can with the means that we have to help change the situation. Our efforts indeed do not start only now. The European Union has been making big efforts over the past years, but I think this tragedy of today shows us that it's indispensable to step up our efforts. And that is the message that I will also convey to the European Council, to the heads of state and government. Some measures have already been taken. Some years ago there was nothing to face this challenge. Frontex was created. It's the European Union's External Border Management and Cooperation Agency. It was recently reinforced. And we have to have a better cooperation and coordination among member states. European institutions do not have airplanes. We do not have ships. We don't have these means. But I believe through good cooperation between our member states, much more can be achieved, showing also solidarity to those most exposed. Indeed, I have to have a word also of gratitude to those countries that are receiving many refugees. In last year, around 332,000 refugees came to Europe. 17% of the asylum applications, not only speaking about asylum applications, were received by 5 countries. I want to thank especially Germany, France, Sweden, the United Kingdom, and Belgium. Other countries also are giving a contribution, like Austria and Italy. But I believe that here we need a burden sharing among member states. We need also to strengthen our capacity for search and rescue and our surveillance system to track boats so that we can launch a rescue operation and bring people back to safe grounds before they perish. I think the kind of tragedy we have witnessed here, so close to the coast, should never happen again. Our initiative Eurosur is meant to do that, and we want to see it put into action already on the 2nd of December. I expect that tomorrow the European Parliament will vote in favour of this important initiative. We must also continue our political and development action to improve the living conditions in the countries of origin, working with them there, so that people do not have to flee their homes. Together with my colleagues here on the table, I was now receiving a message from some people from Eritrea, from a young boy that left his country alone, without his family, that survived, because he said he had no conditions to live in his country. We must also step our talks with key third country partners and conclude mobility partnerships for legal migration, but also reinforcing our joint action against criminals and people smugglers, because we should not forget that many of these people that are here today with us and the ones who died, they were paying for smugglers to bring them in these unsafe conditions to Europe. We have already concluded one of these mobility partnerships with Morocco. We are very soon concluding another one in Tunisia, and we hope to do that also with other countries and asking them to cooperate. We will also continue to make good use of our refugee and border funds to help member states in distress, and sono lieto di annunciare che la Commissione è pronta a mobilizzare fondi addizionali fino ad un massimo di 30 milioni di euro ancora nel 2013 per aiutare i rifugiati in Italia. Lavoreremo insieme alle autorità italiane per assicurare che queste risorse allevino le difficoltà dei rifugiati sul territorio. This is a concrete announcement I can make today for additional funding for Italy of 30 million euros, but of course we know that much more has to be done together with our member states. And we will also continue to work tirelessly towards a truly common European asylum and migration policy. As President Letta said, we in the European Commission are doing everything we can to have a much stronger mechanisms at European level. We should not forget that today Lampedusa and Italy are the focus of attention, but let's not forget that also other countries are facing strong migratory pressure. Greece, Malta, Bulgaria, to name just a few examples. To find answers to these common challenges, we all need to work together in a spirit of solidarity and responsibility. Indeed, when it comes to Syrian refugees, and we also today spoke with Syrian refugees in the center of reception and here, we, the European Commission and our member states, the European Union, are by far the largest donor of humanitarian aid in the world, by far. I personally visited some time ago a refugee camp in north of Jordan, where we are helping concretely young boys and young girls to have school that without the support of the European Union they could not have access to school and improvised tents. So this is to tell you that the European Union is very attentive to this issue, but we believe more has to be done. We are, as Commission, committed to drive this action forward. We expect our member states to recognize that this is in our genuine European interest and that they act also accordingly. I thank you for your attention.
Grazie. Cecilia.
Grazie. Mi aggiungo al Presidenti Letta e Barroso nell'esprimere le mie condoglianze alle famiglie delle vittime. Questa tragedia interpella la coscienza di ognuno di noi. Ogni vita persa per ragioniere la costa europea per sull'Europa e su ognuno dei suoi abitanti. Vorrei anche esprimere la gratitudine
are a tragedy,
agli abitanti
and I would also like to express our gratitude and support to the inhabitants of Lampedusa. Your compassion, your bravery, your dedication are an example,
sulla strada è una vera politica europea dell'immigrazione
and they are an inspiration for EU member states to encourage them to deal with European migration and asylum policy based on solidarity and support.
So, like President Barroso said, we'll never forget the sight of 280 coffins today. I will bear that with me for the rest of my life, and I think they express something that we need to think about in the European Union. This is not a European Union that we want. We need to do everything we can to prevent tragedies such as this one to happen again. It calls for EU action. We need to act in the short term, medium term and long term. In the short term, we have to increase our search and rescue efforts. Yesterday, I was with Vice President Alfano at the Council of Ministers, with Interior Ministers, and we discussed this at length. And we decided to set up a task force led by the Commission involving the Italian authorities, but also other Mediterranean countries, as well as Frontex and other agencies. I proposed to launch a wide search and rescue operation covering the whole Mediterranean, from Spain to Cyprus, so that we can save more lives and detect boats in time, preventing tragedies like the one we saw a couple of days ago. We need quicker tracking, identifying and rescuing boats and vessels. We also need to increase, as we are already doing, our dialogue and cooperation with countries of origin, transit of migrants. And this is crucial, to have a dialogue with them to increase ways of legal migration, but also to fight the trafficking networks that profit so ruthlessly on people's distress. We do need to open ways for more regular migration. To offer legal ways to come to EU will reduce the number of people who put themselves at the hand of smugglers and traffickers. Here, Member States must do much more to resettle people in need of asylum and international protection. I'll call for all Member States to do more when it comes to resettlement and to work with the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees to identify the most vulnerable people in conflicts such as Syria and bring them safely to Europe. We also need to discuss and identify other ways for refugees to be sheltered. Possibilities of humanitarian visas can be explored, as well as possibilities in specific cases to ask for asylum outside the EU territory. We need to change our approach towards migration. This restrictive approach has proven its limit. We need to move towards openness, solidarity, sharing of responsibility and a true European response. Thank you very much for your kind attention.
Grazie, ho poco da aggiungere, quindi vado per flash. Il primo è che mai
I don't have much to add, so I'll just say a few words.
così vicina come
First of
ieri
all, I've
al
never
Consiglio
really
di
felt
Lussemburgo
that
e oggi con la presenza
Europe
qui
was so
di José
close to
Manuel
us.
Barroso e di Cecilia Malmstrom.
I saw it yesterday in Luxembourg,
La prima volta
and today
ho visto i rappresentanti degli
visit
Stati
of
del Nord
the Commission President
non solo
Barroso and
solidarizzare a
Commissioner Mrs.
parole,
Malmstrom.
ma anche dire che
I've seen the
Lampedusa,
northern
che
countries showing their
quest'isola è
sympathy,
la porta
not
dell'Europa
only with
in
words,
mezzo al
but
Mediterraneo.
also saying that Lampedusa is
È
the
un
door
punto
to
di
Europe in the
svolta che
Mediterranean.
serve ad affermare che
And I think
questa
this has been a
frontiera qui
turning
davanti a
point,
noi è la
showing that
frontiera
the
dell'Europa.
border here
Abbiamo
is the
sentito
border of Europe.
i siriani dire chiaramente che arrivano qui non perché vogliono stare qui, ma perché
We have
vogliono
listened to
andare
migrants from Syria who
Noi
say
sappiamo che la
they come here not because they want to stay here, but because they want to go to Europe.
importante, un ruolo
We know that the European Commission has a major role to play.
che è
It has to be the driving force of what has to be done.
principale
The member states have to really make a major effort
lavoreremo per
to come to an agreement on this issue.
facilitare il
That's why at an intergovernmental level,
e perché ha
we're
voluto
really
essere
trying
qui
to
per dire con grande
push for the facilitation
Lampedusa
of
è
this.
nel cuore
The
dell'Europa.
Commissioner is here today because they want to say
Stati membri
loudly and clearly that Lampedusa is the heart of Europe.
ecco perché
But now it's up to the member states to do their utmost.
Consiglio sulla priorità in agenda di
And the President of the
il
Council
nostro rapporto con gli Stati
said
membri
that this topic will be given priority on the European agenda.
sulle immigrazioni.
And I think this is how the Commission can really contribute to this in Europe. And I think since yesterday we've acknowledged the importance
costituendo una task
of
force
this.
alla quale
Under the guidance of Cecilia Malmstrom,
alcuni importanti
we
paesi
decided to set up a task force.
questo è il fatto nuovo, non solo quelli
Some of the main EU member states have decided to join the task force, and not only the Mediterranean countries, but for the first time northern countries.
che sappiamo
I'm not saying that this is the right road,
sono i
no,
passi da fare.
these are just words,
Sarà fatto oggi
but I think that we are aware that there are many steps to be taken along this road. Today, this is the first step to really give momentum to asylum policies and really refugee policies. And I would really like to thank Lampedusa and Sicily and all the communities there, Agrigento and other people in Sicily who have welcomed the coffins and who have accepted burying dead people in their cemeteries. And we've seen the generosity of the population, and we have to support them, not only with the moral weight that they have to bear, but we don't want to leave them alone. I think it's important to take some emergency measures for the European migration policy, and I hope that today's meeting will be a turning point both for national and European policies.
Buongiorno, sono Terranova, agenzia di stampa di N Kronos. Poco fa avete detto di aver incontrato
Okay, here's one question from the press. These are pictures of people in their country of origin, I think these are pictures we will use in order to remember the losses.
Avete incontrato poco fa una delegazione di profughi, tra cui, se non ricordo male, eritrei e siriani. Intanto che cosa vi hanno detto, cosa vi hanno chiesto e come mai non li avete incontrati all'interno?
My question is, what kind of messages have you heard from the refugees that you've met?
No, intanto al centro di accoglienza abbiamo avuto modo di scambiare, ovviamente nei tempi rapidi complessivi di questa visita.
Well, we didn't have much time at the centre. It was a very rapid visit.
In modo ovviamente più organizzato, con ovviamente la traduzione.
But we had an exchange of views with some of the people there. Because of the interpretation, we had to organise a very short visit. But I'm saying that the message we've received is a very strong message, and it's a very strong message not only for Italy but also for Europe. And they've explained why they've made these choices that were responsible for the deaths of some of their family members, and answered questions about why they've left their country. And some of the questions the refugees have asked us are, how will we deal with the Dublin III regulation? And these are some of the questions that have been raised. And also the problem of minors, young refugees. One of the children we met asked questions, and some of the representatives we've met from the NGOs have really emphasized the importance of dealing with this issue when it comes to minors, young people. And when we go back to Rome this afternoon for the meeting with the Council of Ministers, we'll really focus our attention around these issues.
Letta, il presidente napolitano ha detto che servono misure concrete per svuotare le carceri. Secondo lei il provvedimento deve includere anche il reato di immigrazione?
This is the press conference taking place on Lampedusa right now.
Rifugiati politici e
Commission President José Manuel Barroso with Italian Prime Minister Enrico Letta visiting the island in the wake of the tragedy last week, during which more than 270 people lost their lives as they attempted to cross the Mediterranean.
Molto importante che ha a che vedere con una situazione